As our next unit is heavily algebra based, we're going to spend some time today just going over some algebra skills from grade 9. So this is all review things, but just remind us of how some basic ideas work when it comes to algebra besides cross multiplying. Okay, so we're going to come across polynomials. Polynomials are expressions, things that involve letters and numbers, that sometimes have some like terms. Like terms are those that contain exactly the same letters with exactly the same exponents. If that's true, we want to simplify things by collecting the like terms. So in this first example here, these both have the letter x in them. To simplify them, I want to add up the coefficients, the 2 and the negative 7. Together that makes negative 5x. Notice that only the number changed. The letter never changes when you add things together. We kind of did this when we did solving similar triangles. We had to cross multiply and solve, but just some reminders. Look at the second example. These two are the same. They both have x and y in them. So if I take 5 and I subtract 8, I get negative 3xy's. And the 2y just stays at the end by itself. It's not like, because it doesn't have the letter x. And then the third one, x squareds are similar because they have the same letter with the same exponent. So 5 plus 3 makes 8x squareds. And positive 3 and positive 7 together makes 10x. Again, notice that the letters don't change. We're just collecting the numbers at the front. Okay, next idea. We want to get rid of brackets. Brackets are not necessarily our friend. They make things more complicated looking. So we have to expand them. Expanding means get rid of. To do that, we have to multiply all the terms inside the bracket by the value in front. So in this first example here, I have a 1 in front. When I multiply things by 1, nothing happens except for the brackets disappear. The next one has a negative 1 in front. Here, it does make a big difference because our signs are going to change. Once I've expanded brackets, I want to look for like terms. So the 2x and the negative 3x gives us negative 1, and negative 4 and positive 8 gives us plus 4. Okay, we'll try the next one. 2 times 4, 2 times negative 1 is 8r minus 2. And when I see a plus sign, it separates things into two parts. So the 4 multiplies with the next section. I'm going to give a 4r and plus 8. Again, I have some like terms. We'll collect them. And we'll get 12r plus 6. Okay, if we look at f, okay, plus and minus signs separate things. So I have a first section here, just negative 2. Then I have a plus sign that separated the multiplying. And then I see a minus sign over here, so again, that part's separate, so it's just minus 5k. Do not multiply the 3 and the 5k, because that is not inside the bracket. Okay, collect our like terms. Put these two things together first. I got 4, and then minus 26k. Now, if you had decided to do your k part first and said negative 26k and then plus 4, that would be totally fine. Both of these are acceptable. Order doesn't really make a difference. Signs, numbers, letters, those make differences. Order does not. If we try G, G is an important idea for us for down the road. When I multiply this one out, I have 3 times 1, which is 3. When I multiply letters that are the same, I need to add exponents. So an x times an x squared means I had an x cubed. When I do the next one, I'll get minus 12x squared. 1x here and 1x here gives me x squared. And I do the last one, 3 times 2 gives us 6. And there's just the x1 that we started with out the front. There are no like terms because x squared, x cubed, and x are all different expressions, different exponents. At times, we're going to have to calculate an expression. We call that evaluating. To evaluate something, we want to make things simpler if we can. That's always our first step, simplify. And then, once I've got as simple as I can, I want to replace. I'm going to replace the letters with the values that I've been given. Be careful to put brackets around the value when you do replace it. So if we try this first one here, I want to simplify, and then I'm going to evaluate as if x is negative 2. So to simplify, I want to get rid of my brackets first. I want to collect my like terms next, 8x minus 15. That's as easy as that gets. Now I'm going to replace. Everywhere I see an x, I'm replacing it with negative 2. I'm going to do that by putting it in brackets. X is worth -2. So 8x's would be 8 times -2, which is -16. Oops, that's a 15, sorry. And then I can add them together. Okay, but make sure you replace with brackets. That's kind of a key. Let's try the next one. 3x times 5x makes 15x squared. 3x times 3 makes 9x. I can't collect those because they are different terms. One has a squared, one doesn't. So I have to replace. In brackets, I'm replacing all the x's with -2's. And now I'm going to follow BEDMAS. BEDMAS says do exponents before multiplying. So I need to do -2 squared. -2 squared is -2 times -2. In other words, +4. Now I can do my multiplying. 15 times 4 is 60. 9 times -2 is -18. And 60 minus 18 is 42. Okay, but make sure you replace all the x's and put the brackets around it. Otherwise, your calculator will lie to you when it does the -2 squared part. Okay, most important for us, we're going to be solving things. So we can simplify, we can evaluate, we can also solve. In other words, we want to figure out the value of x that makes this equation work. So to do this, first, expand any brackets. Rearrange so that numbers are on one side, I keep saying that, and letters on the other side. And when you cross the equal sign to do that, remember, do the opposite operation. So, we'll try a simple one first. M plus 3 is 9. Well, this 3 is a number thing. It should go over here with the other numbers. To do that, I have to take adding and turn it into subtracting. So plus 3 on this side became -3 over there. And 9 minus 3 is 6. Let's look at the next one. M equals. I have a dividing by 3 over here. I can bring it to the other side and do the opposite. That means it has to become a multiplying. Okay, cross the equal sign, do the opposite. Don't switch signs, switch operations. That's what we're trying to remember here. And those two are pretty straightforward. In C and D and the remaining of them, I may have more than 2 terms involved. So I have to make sure that I have all the number terms on one side and the letters on the other. In C, I do. These are both letter terms. This is a number term. I can collect the letter terms. 4b minus 6b is -2b. To solve that, I need to get rid of this -2. I need to get b by itself. We call that isolating. Since it's multiplying out front here, it can go to the other side and divide. And 12 divided by -2 is -6. If we try D, I look at it and say, I got a letter term, I got a number term, I got another number term. I need to put the number terms together. So I'm going to bring the -6 to the right side. That will leave me 4t. I already had 10. And -6 has to become the opposite, +6. Well, I can add those together, and that gives me 16. I don't want 4t, though. I want just t. So I need to take that 4, which is currently multiplying, and turn it into dividing. And t is 4. And I'll try some more. Letter E. I need to make sure all the letter terms are together. But right now, the 5x is with a number term, so it needs to come back to the left side. So I have 3x plus x. The 5x, we don't see it, but there's a little plus sign in front of it, which means it has to become a -x. And equal to -6. Make sure that 6 is still negative, okay? That negative sign stays in front of it. 3x plus 1x minus 5x is -1x. I want to know what just x is, so I'm going to take -6, divide by -1, and x is 6. Okay, now we've got to the slightly more complicated versions, things involving brackets. We don't like brackets, so let's get rid of them. We can distribute them, expand them. Once we've done that, it turns into a previous type of question. Put the numbers on one side and the letters on the other. So I'm going to bring the 3 over here and subtract it. I don't want 3x equals, I want just x equals. So I need to divide by 3. and x is 7. You guys can try G and H. I would pause them, give them a try yourself, see if you can do this. We're going to expand our brackets first. So we're going to distribute. We're going to rearrange. So I'm going to bring all the y's to the left. This 4y is going to come here, which means I need to bring the 8 to the other direction. So negative 6 minus 8. Remember, there's a little plus sign in front of that, right? Same as this one over here. When you swap sides, you got to do the opposite operation. Negative 3y and negative 4y makes negative 7y, and negative 6 and negative 8 makes negative 14. So y is negative 14 over negative 7, or in other words, 2. And the last one. Get rid of those brackets. So 2k plus 6, 3k minus 6. I can put all the numbers on one side, the letters on the other. This time I'm going to bring the 2k to the left side, or sorry, the right side. Okay. There's less number terms over there, so it's slightly easier to rearrange it this way. That 6 has to come over here. I can collect. I get k on the right side, which is nice. That's all I want if I go is k. On the left side, I get 24. And I'm done. Now, just to point out to you guys back in the question here, oops, sorry, not that. It said, show a check for your answer to H. So we should be able to check to see if we're actually doing this right. There's no point doing all this math, not knowing if we're right or not. So to check something, we have an answer we think is right. We think K should be 24. To check it, we go back to our question. Let's move it up a little bit here so we can see it. And rewrite the question, but replacing K with the value we think it is. So I see K there, and I see a K here. I'm going to replace it. I'm going to evaluate, see what happens. And I'm going to work on each part separately. So on the left side, I'm doing bed math, so I did brackets first. On the right side, I'm doing bed math, so I'm going to have to do some multiplying first. And on the left side, I'm doing multiplying. On the right side, I'm doing subtracting. And I get, oops, I should say 66. And what do you know? Both sides are the same. That tells me that I have the right answer. I've checked it. So that's the end of that lesson. Just a review of some algebraic expressions, how we can collect, which we call simplifying, how we can evaluate, just calculating, and how we can solve. And solving by far is the most important thing to us. Okay, so we'll try some of these questions here. Give yourself a chance to practice some things. These should be review, but just in case, go over some things, practice them, make sure you can do them. And if you're stuck, come see me because we're going to be using lots and lots of algebra stuff for the next little while when we do the next whole section of this course.